There is live. Hello, welcome everyone to the Mozilla Science Project Call. Yay! Oh, I think I started a little early. The Mozilla Science Project Call. So hi, I'm Abby. I'm lead developer for the Mozilla Science Lab. And with me today is our MC, Madeline Monsma. So she is a PhD student at the University of Toronto, which happens to be in the same city I'm in, which is why we're in the same room. So we're both here today. So on the project call, we celebrate new contributors to our project. We explore some best practices in open source and open science, and we hear about all the cool community projects going on. So, Madeline, take it away.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Abby. If you are just joining us on the Etherpad, make sure you enter your name on the top right so you can have a nice color, and sign in under line 23. And then we're going to follow along with the agenda on the Etherpad. So let's start with the first thing, Friends of Mozilla Science, and there's a few.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, so.
Oh, it happened.
Okay, well, if you're seeing the Etherpad, which we're not, we're frozen, but sign in on line 23 and below, and then make sure you put your name in the top right-hand corner.
That's strange. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So we have some Friends of Mozilla Science that have been added to the Etherpad. Oliver, do you want to tell us about the contributors that you've had this week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hi, I'm Oliver. I founded WorldBrain, and last week I met Gerben van den Brugge, who is a former employee of the project Hypothesis. And Hypothesis is the project we're building our first tool on. It's a bookmarking tool for science communicators like scientists, skeptics, and science journalists. And yeah, he was really, really helpful to understand the organization and the technology of Hypothesis better, since he's a developer and has been developing actively on the code of the Hypothesis. Yeah, and he has a pretty similar vision of WorldBrain and Hypothesis and what this could be, so it's the beginning of a nice collaboration, I guess. So.
Hey, thanks,
awesome.
Gerben.
And Phage Parser, which is my project, I had 2 meetings this week with some new contributors, which is really exciting. Lisa is a student at the University of Toronto, and she's going to be coming to the Mozilla Global Sprint in June, which is really exciting. And then also Larry Gray has volunteered to, oh, my face. Larry Gray has also joined and is going to be working on some of our Good First Bug issues.
Yeah. Welcome to all the new people. Yay!
If you're just joining us again, sign on the Etherpad. And feel free to add questions as speakers are going on the Etherpad. So now we're going to move on to our guest speaker for this month, Jure Triglav from Cocoa Foundation, and he's going to be telling us about their collaboration with Substance and Stencilla and PubSuite.
All right. Is everyone else muted? I'm hearing some stuff. Okay, that's good. Thanks. So hi, I'm Jure. I'm from the Cocoa Foundation, or the Collaborative Knowledge Foundation. So we are a foundation that was founded in September of last year. And it's a foundation that focuses on open source knowledge production tools and supporting knowledge production in other ways as well. But the main effort right now is PubSuite, which is this framework for knowledge production applications. So I got a question just recently of what the hell is that and what does it relate to in the real world? And one example that I think demonstrates this pretty well is a scientific blogger. So imagine a WordPress kind of thing, where you could plug in equations, you could plug in references, you could plug in some kind of figure that has been processed in the backend in an R application, and then generated and included in your blog post. So imagine that kind of blogger being a web application, and it's at the time when we decided to do this, I don't think anything like it existed, and I still don't think anything like it exists. So if anyone knows that we're reinventing water or reinventing hot water, please let us know. But I think it's still pretty unique. So how you would use PubSuite is you would say, I want to create a science blogger, or I want to create a book production application. And you would select the components that you need for your knowledge production application. So for example, for book production, that would be a table of contents manager, a manager of roles of all the users that are working on the book. So the editor, the technical editor, the writers, and so forth. And you would select these components and just launch your application. And that would be the start of a web native, a web-based knowledge production for books. So that's what PubSuite hopes to enable. What we're starting with is a science blogger. So we think that's the most useful application to start with, and it's also quite simple. So for example, if we started with a journal production platform, that's a lot of complexity from the get-go. And science blogger is something that we think is sorely missing from the open source and open science community. So that's what we're starting with, and we're doing this in collaboration with Substance, who you may or may not know. Some of you may know the eLife Lens project. The eLife Lens project is based on Substance, and there are a lot of other projects out there in production that are based on Substance. And Substance is this JS library for content editing. It could be used for text editing, and it mostly is used for text editing, but it can also be used for other content-based editing. So it's a really awesome project, and you should check it out. There are some links in the Etherpad for both the web page and the source code for Substance. And then we're using Stencilla, and Stencilla is this kind of data-driven platform. So imagine something like Jupyter, or I don't know, maybe the pronunciation is Jupyter. That's one I heard. I don't know, because it's Python, Jupyter. Yeah, okay. But something similar to Jupyter, but there are differences. And when you talk to Nokomi, who is the author of Stencilla, I'm sure he will have a list of 30 things that are different from Jupyter and Stencilla. But to give you a rough idea, it's kind of like a Jupyter framework, just that it integrates easily into other platforms. So this collaboration between Stencilla and PubSuite and Substance is this science blogger where you can create a spreadsheet, a web-based spreadsheet that you can import data in from whatever you can import data in R. So it's a spreadsheet that understands R, that runs R. And for example, you can import data from the World Bank and process that, analyze it, create a figure, and then insert that figure into a blog post. And that blog post will then have that figure, have the reference to that figure, to all of the steps that were needed to create that figure will be linked in the blog post. So it's kind of this, it traces all the steps back to the initial data source from the figure. And this is kind of a reproducible way to approach science blogging. We just don't know if there's anything like that out there. I think it's pretty unique in that respect. And it's still pretty early for PubSuite. We started about 6 months ago, and I'm the only full-time developer on the project right now. But we have other people joining us in a few months. So we're really getting started as of a month ago, and if you want to contribute, we would be really happy to get your contributions, or not just code, just maybe feedback. We've gotten a lot of people who just came to us and said, well, what does this do, and how do we use this? And that's really helpful to help us understand how to message, how to spread the message of what PubSuite is. It's in any way you can contribute, it would be great. I put some examples of what we've already achieved with the collaboration, and that's like a collaborative editor where you can have 2 or 3 people, well, theoretically an unlimited number of people editing the same document, and the spreadsheet that I was just talking about where you can create a figure and then insert it in the blog post. I've added some of those links to the Etherpad. And lastly, there's been a new development last week, and Substance, being this awesome open source project, now has a Substance consortium, which is a group of organizations that are dedicated to supporting the advancement of Substance. So there's a link in the Etherpad as well. It would be great if you kind of get a look at it. If you were part of an organization who would also be interested in supporting great open source projects, that would be something to look at. And that's kind of it. So in one of the descriptions of this talk, it said that it's a preview of the talk that will be at the CSV conf next week. So that's a week away. That's, no way. That's idea stage. But yeah, that's roughly what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about how we did the spreadsheet and the blog post integration. That's me.
Well, that's awesome.
Wow. Okay. That's really great. There's a bunch of questions coming in. So we have one from Mikey in the chat. Do users get access to the raw data that generates graphs? And if so, are there options for anonymizing things like the username?
So yes, users get access to the raw data generating graphs, sure. Are there options for anonymizing things like username? I'm not sure. So the user who is looking at the data or the user who is generating the graph, who would you like to anonymize? In any case, you could register as a user that doesn't have any information associated with them. So you could register as a random, like you do with a throwaway account. For example, if you're on Hacker News or on Reddit, you just use a throwaway account for something that might be, I don't know, something you don't want your name associated with. So that's the kind of the very low technical. Okay. So Mike is just saying that psychologists and my data have usernames attached to raw data. I mean, this is something that we can look at, but right now the low-key or the low-tech solution is that you just use a throwaway account for the for the data. Okay.
Abby wants to know, how did you... Oh, Mikey, do you have anything else to add? If so, feel free to add it in the Etherpad or chat. And we'll move on to Abby's question, which is, how did you start these collaborations and get large groups to work together?
So first, it's really not large groups. If it was large group, that would be a big issue, or a bigger issue. But luckily, we have a really good founding team. So Kristen Rattan and Adam Hyde. Kristen, the former publisher of PLOS, and Adam Hyde from Booksprints. So they both have a lot of experience in the industry, and they're really good at connecting people. So they brought Substance and Nokomi from Stencilla into this fold, and we had a great first community meeting in San Francisco last year to kind of get to know each other personally, and that's basically where things started, I guess. So I think it was important that we were personally introduced and we had some time to spend together. We were basically in the same house for a week. And we just kind of hacked and talked, and that was nice. So it gave a personal touch to this online collaboration. I'm not saying that it's not possible to have a completely online collaboration, but it's nice to know people that you're working with, and it's made things a lot easier going forward. We know each other, and it's okay to shoot an email at 3 a.m. in the morning, and so I think that was important. But Substance is 2 people. It's Michael and Oliver from Austria. And Coco in the development team is me from Ljubljana, and then Stencilla is Nokomi from New Zealand. So it's really 4 people from 3 different organizations. Yeah, so that. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
I think this is probably similar to Mikey's question, but I'm curious. So if, let's say, you're making a book. Is it possible to decide how much of your steps of generating it would be visible to people, like when they come to
Sure. So one concept we have that we just introduced in 0.2. So the version of PubSuite right now is 0.2.1. It's very much alpha, but we just introduced the support for roles. So we have roles as editor, contributor, admin, and each of those roles has certain permissions to view certain aspects of the backend property. So we have a system where we store everything in fragments and collections. So collections are a collection of fragments, and everything is represented like that. So certain roles have access to certain fragments, certain types of fragments, and so forth. So it's basically this very flexible system where you can say this role has access to this role has access to that. And a user can be a member of several roles at the same time, and they get dynamically assigned permissions for what they can view. So it's this flexible system, role-based system. Access control lists is the technical term. But yes, you can definitely show or hide certain things from the public or from various mid-level roles that you can put into the system.
That's really great. That sounds like a great system. And last question, if there are no more questions in Etherpad, have you learned any lessons about collaborating openly?
Yeah, this is the best practices in open source.
Yeah. So, so this one comes directly from my master Adam Hyde. So I get very attached to my open source project. So something that you work on for a long time, you get very picky about what changes you want to introduce in your project. And it can be very hard to let go and let other people change it in ways you wouldn't want to. So that's the hardest part, I think, is that you have to understand that this is not your project, but it's a community project. And that you need to let other people learn on your community project or learn on the community project, learn to make mistakes. That it's okay also for you to make mistakes when you're contributing out in the open. It's sometimes people don't want to contribute things, don't want to commit things that they think that are slightly iffy, just because they don't want to put themselves in a bad light. But I think it should be understood that it's completely fine to make mistakes. And to even backtrack at certain points. It's just a learning experience. And that if you are the owner of the project, learn how to let go of parts of the project or of the entire project if there's a time for it.
Cool. Like, follow-up question. What has helped you let go of your project or just encourage others to make mistakes?
So again, that would be my master Adam Hyde. No, really, I mean, he's a bit of a mentor. I think it helps if you have someone who has experience in the industry, who has experience in open source, to just tell you what they think, and it will change your state of mind. It doesn't, like, really, if it comes from someone who has more experience than you, I think it really can change the way you think, the way you see things. My advice would be find and work with someone who has more experience, basically. It will, a few years down the line, you will find yourself being the more experienced guy, or girl. But right now, if you're starting out, find someone who's more experienced to give you that viewpoint that you need to let go. I've been used to working on my project just solo. I was working open source in the open, but still I was the only contributor on several projects. And this is a completely different game. You need to just accept that people will change your code and they will make a lot of improvements. You know, this is the interesting one. Like, okay, you let people make mistakes, but then it happens that people touch your code and they improve it 100-fold, and that's the even more challenging one. You know, it makes you doubt yourself. But yeah, learn to let go.
So I have a question as the person who. So this is Mikey. Sorry, I don't have a camera.
Hey.
So as the person who kind of started my own project, is there anything you can tell me to bring on somebody who's maybe more advanced? Because my problem is that I have a bunch of people who work with me, and I'm ostensibly the expert, but at the same time, I'm not that much further ahead than they are. Like, how do I bring someone who's a more seasoned developer? Because I'm basically doing this as a hobby on the side. And how do you attract those types of people to join your project, to be like, okay, I'm kind of bringing you on, even though you know more than me. I know the project more than you, but really I'd like you to kind of mentor me.
That's a tricky one. So with Coco, we are now funded by Shuttleworth and the Moore Foundation. So it's not a completely unsupported project, which a lot of open source projects are. So we do have the freedom to bring in really, really good developers. And that stick is something that a lot of that carrot is something that a lot of open source projects won't have. But I think from what I experienced otherwise in other open source projects, what really draws people is the cool factor, and that's not something that you can apply to a lot of the open source projects. A lot of open source projects are dull for a lot of people that are not the core contributors. But if you can make your project cool, and that just means like maybe making a logo, making a cool landing page, or spreading your presence on Twitter or Hacker News, just making that social social outreach a part of the work that you do. That I think would be good advice. Because you can't expect people to come to you. You need to really, if you're working on a project, make it cool.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Well, yeah, we had a guest speaker a couple months ago, Joy actually. He was talking about the importance of your Readme.
Yeah,
sort of
definitely.
help people come into your project and I guess understand how cool it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really. I mean, if you basically have to look at yourself. What do you do when you look at a project on GitHub? You look at you scroll through the README in about 3-4 seconds. If there's a cool GIF in there, if there's a cool animation, if there's a cool logo, you will spend more time looking at it. And that's how you draw people in. And they look at the issues, what the open issues are. They look at the pull requests. Yeah. So that would be README. Make your README cool. I like that. It's good. It's cool.
Great, thank you so much, Yuri. If others have questions, keep adding them in the Etherpad, and maybe Yuri you can answer them as we go, non-verbally.
Yeah, and we'll get it back at the end too if something really exciting happens.
Yeah.
Cool.
Questions?
Thanks.
Yuri underline 78, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your experience is really valuable. So
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to go and do some things on my own project after this.
Yeah, now I need to learn how to be cool. Thanks.
I'm going to add an image to my README.
Don't try to learn that from me.
So cool.
Yes, you're my model of cool.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, best of
Please
luck.
continue. Please continue now.
Best of luck in Berlin at CSBConf.
Sorry?
Best of luck at CSBConf with your talk.
Oh, thanks. Will you be there?
I won't be there, but Aurelia, who's taking notes in blue, will be there.
And me,
Oh, cool.
I'm going to be there.
Oh yeah, and
Cool.
Oliver will be there.
Oh, awesome. All right. See you there.
And I'm sure other people who are watching the stream, but not in this call, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so catch us talk if you're there.
Okay, that's a perfect segue because next we have project updates, and Oliver with WorldBrain is first on the list. So Oliver, why don't you tell us what WorldBrain has been up to?
So yeah, our goal is that we develop a browser plugin which makes it possible that anybody who reads a news article can see how trustworthy this news article is based on how well it represents scientifically verifiable facts. As you can all imagine, building that plugin itself is not the real issue. Getting all the content is. And so we go through to this goal in a two-step process. For one, the first step is we're building a bookmarking tool for skeptics, science writers like journalists, etc., and scientists, which allows them to annotate, organize, share, and comment on websites, and share them with their community and share them with their colleagues. This gives us an entry point and a tool with which people can enter the information we need to scale the verification. And our approach is that we let our users who are very knowledgeable about the specific topics, like, for example, climate change, GMOs, vaccinations, etc., we let them go over articles and annotate statements of which they think it contains an argument they know from the debate in which they have been communicating for a long time. And doing this over thousands of articles, we will create two data sets. For one, we create a hit list of the most used arguments. We then can verify in text-based summaries, a little bit like a Wikipedia article, crowdsourced. And secondly, we create a data set for machine learning to support the finding of those arguments on the internet. If that makes sense so far and everybody understood it. And I think with Jure, that was it? That was the pronunciation. I think we should talk afterwards as well, because it's not only about the first step of the bookmarking tool, but to create tools for science writers, scientists, and science communicators to do better jobs and to be more efficient in their whole process. And that, of course, includes as well writing own articles, etc. Yeah. If you want to contribute, we're happy for that. You see our link to the GitHub repository in the list, and also our website. Yeah. Yeah, and if anybody of you has funding ideas, so for example, like the Shuttleworth Foundation, to which I'm applying for the fellowship on Sunday, it's a deadline for it. But others that support projects like this, I would be super grateful to hear from them. That was it. Any questions?
I have a question. So I think you might have kind of covered this in the way that it works, but is it going to depend on the fact that people are right when they enter information, or is it more just the fact that most people are going to agree and that kind of thing? So how do you deal with, like, will people need to have some kind of science credentials, or will anyone enter information?
Okay, yeah, that's a tricky part indeed. We're basically starting off with a hand-picked crowd, which then starts to evolve with a set of rules. And if we can automate these rules, or the execution of these rules, then we can bring on people from the outside who are maybe not referenced or not vouched for, etc. And then on top of or on the basis of the interactions the users do, we then can create reputation models that allow us to deal with trolls, to deal with unproductive content in a way.
Very cool. A question from Yuri, which is, what's the machine learning process that you'll be using?
Okay, I should maybe explain it more in detail. So let's imagine we let 5,000 users run over one article. And in this one article, there's one statement, 2,500 of them annotate and break down, like summarize into the core meaning of it, like what they understand, what the argument is inside. Only by running over this one statement, we will generate 2,500 different variations on how to write a specific claim, which we, of course, then have to cluster and break down and break down and break down to a really an argument which we can agree on that it encapsulates all 2,500. And in this process, we then can start searching for, or like on this data, then we can train algorithms to find claims on the internet. And yeah, another element is maybe if there's like 2 or 3 or 100 articles, we will also get how journalists are writing or expressing those claims differently, even though they're maybe in 2 different articles. Yeah. Does it make sense? Tricky, yeah. Yeah. Actually, this part will be the most tricky part. Not building the plugin, not building the bookmarking tool, not building the community that actually verifies, because that's all there. For the most part, it's really getting that algorithm running.
That's really cool. I think this will be a really interesting tool.
Not yet. It's on the plan.
Talking to content. You are talking to Richard and Richard Smith and Stephanie Smith who work on Content Mind.
They work on Content Mind, Richard.
They contribute to it.
Oh, okay, cool. Then I'll talk to Richard. That's a good idea.
And I 100% agree about the ORCID, linking it to ORCID for their user identity.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
That's what Hypothesis is already doing. So they're working together with ORCID. That part is therefore quite covered. But thanks for the input.
Really cool. Any more questions from anyone on the call or anyone watching through the pad? If you have questions, again, feel free to keep entering them under line 131, and then we can answer them non-verbally or come back later.
Julio. All right, thank you. I'll mute myself again.
Okay. Next we have Abby with Paper Badger.
Paper Badger, I didn't put myself first this time because I realized I'd always be talking and then I'd talk again, and it felt weird. So I put myself second, Paper Badger. So Paper Badger, it's contributorship badges for science. So when you have a paper and you have like 50 authors, you don't know who did what. This way you can assign a badge based on what they did. So if someone did data collection, they'll get the data collection badge next to their name. Or someone wrote the paper, they'll get like writing badge. So we have a prototype up and it's working. It's on GigaScience and the Journal of Open Research Software. People are using it, yay. But we do have some stability issues. So we are planning to migrate from BadgeKit to Badger. So that's a big task that's coming up. The next couple weeks we'll be starting that. So there's a few people really interested. So Janek, I know you watch this sometimes later. Hello, thank you for all your work. I should have said hi in the Friends of Mozilla. He's really keen, and so is Amit, to really start this migration. So if you have used BadgeKit or Badger, we need your help, or we would really appreciate your input on migrating. And we have some good first bugs linked on line 155 if you want to jump in on anything. And well, and a big thing also is that researchers have wanted to use these badges to show what badges they have on their personal page, because right now it's only in ORCID, GigaScience, and JORS. So if you can help us design a widget that will, like, a user can just show all of their badges on, that would be fun, and people would like that. Cool. And if you have questions, put them in the pad. I'll come back and answer them.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Have you had any uptake by like journals, like big organizations or anything like that?
Yeah, so two journals have implemented it. But I think the stability is kind of stopping us from really, like trying to reach out to more journals, because it goes down, it's a little embarrassing. It goes down for about 30 minutes a day. But it works most of the time. This is a prototype.
So we do more promoting than you have been.
Yeah, so the journals that are there, they're the ones that really helped us build this first prototype, both Ubiquity Press and what's it called, BMC, Biomed Central. Yeah, they actually gave us developer time and helped us build this, which is really amazing and very helpful, and they've implemented it on their site. But I think once we get something really stable and easier to use, then we'll reach out to more journals, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, because I'm a little scared to be like, hey, journal, please put this in. It breaks a little bit every day, but it's mostly good. Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, thanks.
Once
we migrate, we're doing it.
So it sounds like there's lots of opportunities to get involved for anyone listening who's interested in getting started with open science. Oh, a question from Yuri. What's making it crash?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery. So BadgeKit, we built it on top of BadgeKit, Mozilla's BadgeKit, and no one's currently maintaining it. They don't have funding anymore. So when it crashes, no one can tell me why. But everyone agrees that it happens. Everyone who's used BadgeKit, they're like, oh yeah, that's normal.
So hence the migration.
Hence the migration, yes.
Cool. So you expect that with the migration that will fix your stuff?
Yes, that should.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. If there are any other questions, keep adding them on the Etherpad under line 160. Moving on now to OpenSMP. So Bastian is not here, so I'm just going to read out some of his updates. OpenSMP is a project to put personal genomic information into the public domain. So
you can share.
Oh, okay, yes. So here we go. I think how this works is, let's say you got yourself sequenced using 23andMe or something like that. You could then submit your information, and then it would go in this database, and people can look through many different human genomes, which is really cool. Some updates they presented at Forest 2016.
I watched his talk, and it was super amazing. He was like, "Open data saved my dad's life," because he put his genome up online, and then some other random researcher like analyzed it and was like, "Hey, you're at risk for like this cancer," and Bastian was like, "Hey, Dad, you should get checked out for this cancer because you're probably also at risk." And then they found it and they operated, and now his dad's fine. But if they had waited long, it would have, yeah.
That is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Oh,
so I think.
So you should all get yourself sequenced and upload it to OpenSMP, and somebody will come and tell you your risk for cancer.
Yeah, so that was super cool. I think it was recorded, so if you watch his Force talk, that's cool. But I don't know, that was like, whoa, open data, saving the world.
Yeah. Amazing. So Force 2016, cool talk. They finished migrating their database and gotten rid of some legacy stuff, and now they have some students from Google Summer of Code who will be working on the project.
Yeah, and they're all meeting right now, so they can't make this call. Bastian apologized profusely.
There are some good first bugs in the link there, so if you're interested in getting involved, that's a good place to start. And they also have a Gitter chat room, so you could go there and see what they're talking about. Okay, the comment is to write that story down. And if there are other questions, we probably can't answer them, but if you put them in the pad, we'll tell Bastian to come and answer them later. Okay, next is me with phage parsers. So this is a project that I kind of my supervisor started it, and I kind of got involved last year. The idea is that there's lots of genomes of bacteria and archaea that have been sequenced, and many of them, over half, have CRISPR systems. And CRISPR is a buzzword that people are talking about because of this whole genome editing thing. But it's also interesting to me and lots of other people just from the perspective of understanding how it's used in actual natural systems. So what we want to do with this project is kind of gather all of the CRISPR data that's available and add any annotations that we can. So people that are researching things like which Cas genes the system has, determining which CRISPR type it has, whether or not you can tell if the system is active. These are the kinds of annotations that we want to add. And so what this will look like in the end, hopefully, is a database that people can come to via the web, and then they can explore different relationships between systems. Or they can add their own CRISPR system, and it would tell them things like what type of CRISPR it is, or which ones it's most related to, or whether or not we think it's active, things like that. This is very much in development. There's not really a working prototype, but there's some of the scripts that will be doing this analysis are working. I just updated the Readme, so if people can read it and tell me what they think, if it's confusing or not, that would be really helpful. And we have some good first bugs, some code, and some documentation if people are interested in helping out.
Nice, that's quite a lot of good first bugs. And your Readme looks nice, too.
Some of them might be easier than others, but all of them involve me helping. Oh yeah, okay, so I just love talking about CRISPR, so I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to take the opportunity from this question to talk more about CRISPR. So CRISPR is an adaptive immune system that bacteria or archaea can have, and how it works is really similar, actually, to how our adaptive immune system works. It's just totally biologically different. So if you've learned about our immune system, you know, we have antibodies, and then when you get attacked by a virus, oh, perfect, okay. So when you get attacked by a virus or something, you make an antibody, and then the next time the virus comes back, you can fight it off. So the CRISPR system works kind of the same way, except that instead of using antibodies, what they do is they collect pieces of DNA from a virus. So let's say you're a bacteria, you have a CRISPR system, a virus comes in, you take a piece of its DNA, and you put it in this.
Do you want to use this mouse?
Okay, I'll use this mouse.
Okay.
You put it in your CRISPR locus, which is in the genome of the bacteria. And so these colored rectangles represent pieces of virus DNA. And they go in between these diamonds, which are just pieces of bacterial DNA. They're all the same. And then the next time the virus comes back, these rectangles, pieces of virus DNA, get transcribed, and so they're floating around the bacteria. And then the bacteria can match the virus that comes back and then cut it with a DNA cutting enzyme. And that's like a way to, yeah, fight off viruses. So before this whole CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing thing, it is a real thing that exists in nature. And probably the estimates of how many organisms have it is an underestimate, because it's known that if you have a lab strain of bacteria, that it'll often lose its CRISPR system if it's not being used. So probably most bacteria and archaea have CRISPR systems.
Cool. Genome editing's cool.
Genome editing is also cool. Not something I do. It's very cool. Okay, if there are any more questions, feel free to throw them in the pad under line 200, and I will get to them later. Let's move on to Collector with Mikey.
Unfortunately, Collector is not nearly as cool as CRISPR or gene editing. But yeah, so what this is, it's a project designed to help psychologists run their experiments on the web. Like a lot of people I saw before I built this were using like PowerPoint and stuff to do their studies, which is just madness to me. And so I thought, well, we should have a tool that's easier to use and let you run stuff on the web and just get out of your way. So that's a lot of what we've done. If we've essentially taken all the kind of confusing junk of getting things to run on the web and turned it into, here's a spreadsheet, tell us exactly what you want to happen, and we will execute that code. So we've pretty much done that pretty successfully, but I think our big thing now is outreach and going to more and more people who aren't kind of in our little network of scientists. Like essentially it's penetrated the people we know pretty easily because it's better than what they had. But people who don't know us have no way to directly access us or ask us questions. So a lot of what I've been trying to do recently has been less coding and more like mentoring work. So I have a lot of undergraduate research assistants at UCLA now who I work with them, and I'm trying to get them to help develop things. And I've moved us all onto Slack, hoping that'll facilitate some sort of communication between people on the team, and hopefully we'll be able to help each other as a community. Because I found just like, so I had the same problem earlier of just letting go of the project. And so when I fail to let go of the project, it ends up that I'm the bottleneck for everything because everyone's got to kind of go through me to get everything done. I'm sort of the holder of all the information. So I've been actively trying to not be the holder of information. Oh, any lessons learned from being a mentor? That I'm not a very good one, at least not innately. I'm not a very good one, is what I've learned. But I'm actively trying to get better at it. So I'm trying to, resist the urge to just tell people what to do. Like it's very hard to just be like, well, I know how to do it. Like, if you're trying to like explain to your parents how to do anything, and you watch them and they're just like single clicking, and you're just like, just get off the computer. Like that's the urge I'm trying to constantly fight. Like the just get off the computer, I can do it for you urge. So I've been trying to get better at like coaxing people to get doing what they're supposed to be doing instead of just doing it for them. So yeah, that's a lot of the work I'm trying to do right now. I'm seeing notes, Phil. Okay, so these notes are related to the things I'm saying. Yeah, so I mean, that's where the project's at. Essentially, we're about to go beta. We're waiting on one last contributor to kind of do their little piece, which pulls all the data together. So it does the data aggregation at the end of your experiment. But aside from that, we are pretty much just testing it. We have RAs kind of beating at the door, seeing if it knocks over. And so far, it has not fallen over, so that is a good sign. Like it seems pretty stable and ready for release. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to gear up for a broader audience and saying, here's a tool we have. It's available for you. We've solved most of your problems that you're going to deal with. And now it's getting people on board to just say, okay, here's the way you go from hearing about it to doing it, and trying to make that a smooth process. But it's not nearly as smooth as I think as it should be, but we're working on it. What's the tech stack? What does that mean? I'm not sure what that question means.
Yuri, feel free to jump in here.
Yeah, so the tech stack would be what's the technology you're using, whether it's JavaScript, Node on the back end, Rails, Ruby, Python, whatever. How's this structured?
We're doing most of this stuff just straight PHP. I mean, we're generating PHP pages. There's a lot of JavaScript controllers for things like timing your trial types. Mm-hmm. But it's mostly PHP and JavaScript kind of doing the in-browser reactive stuff we need. But trial to trial, the backend's being controlled by PHP. It's not meant to be a big centralized server. It's much more federated. So the idea is that you grab this code, you drop it on your own server, and now you run all your own data stuff. Although we're thinking of more centralized hooks for things like dealing with this sort of a lot of the open science people who are interested in not letting people have sole access to their own data because of the kind of bad incentives it brings about of, hey, maybe if I just change a few numbers here or there, that's easy enough to do. So we're trying to think of ways we can take some of the power away from people just to remove temptation to do shady things with your data. But it's for the most part PHP doing a lot of the work, which we know is not a great long-term solution. Like eventually we realize it's going to be more JavaScript because it just scales better, it runs quicker, it's easier to deal with in the browser. But a lot of what we want to do is minimize how much people need to know to be able to do anything. And JavaScript, you saw, just like things ended up looking more complicated from their end, at least the way we were approaching it. So we're trying to strike that balance between ease of understanding and just how powerful it is and what we can actually execute. And it's been a tough balancing act, but so far I think we've got at least a workable solution. Mm. And we're collecting data and publishing papers with it, so that's always nice.
That's good. Yeah, I think I found a similar thing, like building the badges thing with JavaScript and realizing that most of the scientific community knows Python.
Yeah.
You want to contribute, but they can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tough lesson. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that in order to facilitate contributors, then you need to maybe not do it in the most ideal way.
Yeah, that's the thing we found that was really like, people liked PHP because it was easy, But then at the same time, it very much hobbles us to do things we want to be doing. 'Cause it's like, it's kind of a hard language to work with in some cases, or it doesn't do exactly what we would wish it could do, like JavaScript can.
Cool. So how can people get involved right now?
I think right now, go to the GitHub page and probably just say, hey, I found an issue, or just tell us you want to be involved, and then we'll just invite you to Slack and be like, join us, talk to us, we'll tell you whatever you want to know. But yeah, a lot of it is that, the hard part is there is no real easy on-ramp to get in right now. So we recognize that's a big issue, and that we can't really attract developers because most of our users are designed, like we designed it to be, the users don't know how to develop anything. That's kind of why they're here. So at the same time, it's like they're really excited about using it, but they're also not able to contribute back. So it ends up just being, eventually we hope some people find it that know how to code, and then they get involved. So that's kind of what we've done, is built up a slowly growing little body of people who just said, hey, this is cool, what can I do?
Okay,
And we try to help those people.
For anyone listening with code experience, PHP or Java, go check out Collector.
Yeah, I want to talk to scientists all day long. We're silly people, so that's fun.
Yeah, and it's tricky because I find most contributors also are users of the product. So it's hard if you're, those audiences don't overlap.
Yeah, the Venn diagram's too little of an overlap area.
Yeah. If you find that one person who wants to use it and is a developer, then you're set.
Yeah, that's basically how it's worked. It's like you find one person who's like, this seems kind of interesting, I know some things. He's like, okay, I'm going to just grab you and not let you go.
Cool. Thanks, Mikey.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Add them under line 223 on the Etherpad. And we're going to move on to STEM role models with Kirsty. And Kirsty is not able to be here, so I'll read some of her updates. So the STEM role models is an app and a website which will provide a list of researchers that could speak at your event or conference. And you can search using keywords such as,
Sorry,
I just website. So there's different keywords you can search, and they're mostly focused on diversity. So, for example, you could search for a female speaker or a minority or something like that. And the goal of this product is to help conference organizers ensure that they have a diverse speaker group that represents the most exciting research and is not, oh, Kirsty's in the chat. Okay, so if you have questions, Kirsty will answer them herself in the chat. Yeah, so improving diversity in conferences and things like that. They've had a lot of exciting publicity recently. So there was a blog post from Mozilla Science Lab. They were interviewed by opensource.com. All these links are on the Etherpad, so if you, and the screen is showing them now, so you can follow those links and look at the interviews. Kirsty gave a talk about STEM role models in London, and they've had a lot of contributions recently, so there's some shout-outs there on line 249 to recent contributors. And they're working on things like the logo and different schematics that they're looking for feedback on, so feel free to check those out and give feedback.
Yeah, they have a new logo. It's their beautiful new logo.
That's
Yay!
really nice. And under line 258, there's a list of ways you can get involved. So they're looking for, in particular, help with the database. Me too, actually. Cool, a database. So if you have expertise in databases, they would love to hear from you. And then under line 264, there's all the ways you can get in touch and see their product and what they're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for all the detailed notes, Kirsty. It's very helpful, even though you're in a noisy place. She likes her logo. She says it's gorgeous. I think
it's a very nice logo, yeah. Mm-hmm. Are there any questions from listeners or people watching?
Yeah, so for the need a database bit, I did encourage Kirsty to try using the Google spreadsheet as we and just read directly from there. Yes? Kirsty? Oh, yeah, it's my friends. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kirsty can't talk. That's okay. But if you know, like, the Google spreadsheet API, that might be a fun way for you to get involved in something that helps STEM fields.
I'm writing a question.
And Madeline is writing a question for you, Kirsty, so you can answer that.
So let's say I'm a woman and I want to be on your list of role models. Is there going to be an option someday that that I could just like submit my information or something like that?
Someday there will be. Right now they don't have a database. She's typing it, yeah. Oh,
Aurelia is working on something. Cool.
Aurelia is doing something. Yeah, and GitHub into spreadsheets. Oh, Mavis has a script that does that, Aurelia. Mavis is a developer at the Mozilla Foundation. I was talking to her right before this call. So that, yeah. And Aurelia is willing to talk with you, Kirsty. So yay!
That's really exciting. I think this will be a very useful thing. Thanks, Kirsty. And if people have more questions, feel free to add them in the pad. And now we're on to our last product update.
Is that Nifras?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, feedback. This is in early stage. Feedback giving categories-based feedback plugin for web users. Usually we go to different domains, food domain, service domain, or project or researchers. Every domain has feedback. Nowadays we give just 5 stars or 4 stars or 2 stars, then leave it out. But my idea is for particular category, food domain, you give each feedbacks for tasty, uh, taste and healthiness for each sub everything's to be considered. So I from this project, this open source project, I create fully domain, for example food, what things to be considered, service, what things to be considered. This will be gathered from the collaborative network. This is the idea, and create a plugin easily pluggable for every domain systems. That's all about similar idea. This is on early stage, just started on 1 week. Questions?
Yeah, so this is you're storing data in a JSON file in GitHub. That's
Yeah.
data is feedback on anything.
Yeah, no, not the feedbacks. That's a categories. For example, food, tasty, healthiness, these things.
Okay. You can store like the tastiness of this food.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited to see you at the Global Sprint. I know you always get a huge crowd there in Bangladesh. Are you in Bangladesh?
No, in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Sorry, I'm sorry. In Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any links, please add them here.
No,
So-
not yet. Not yet. I will add in few days.
Okay.
How can other people help if people are looking to get involved?
Sorry.
How can people help with your project?
Yeah, I will add the GitHub repository and other links. They will contribute via GitHub.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when you get that on GitHub, Nifras.
Okay, I'll give it. I'll put it here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to the end of our scheduled program. I sound like I'm on TV. If there are any other updates nonverbal, feel free to add them for the volunteers and community updates, but looks like we don't have anything right now. Let me just see if there are any questions that I've accumulated for previous things. Abby, do you see anything?
No, I think we're good. Yeah. We're near the end of the call, and we have no community updates. Oh, yeah, the Global Sprint is happening June 2 to 3. I will... No, where is that? Oh, this is... I'm sorry, you're looking at my Whimsy. It shows fun gifts whenever... Global Sprint 2016. So, yeah, it's 2 days where people just work on projects all over the world. So wherever you are, 9 to 5, you can work on a project. So we have a call for sites and for project ideas. So if you want to host a site and have people come to you together, feel free. Oh, am I muted? Keep. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Oh, it's probably the typing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Yeah, so, or you can take a look at all our projects. We have 4 tracks this year. So people will be working on tools, citizen science, open educational resources, and open data. So if you have something you want to work on for those 2 days, bring your project. It's always a lot of fun. And we have a video link on all the different sites so we can see each other. And it's always fun because, like, Nifris is there. Usually he stays up all night. It's crazy on the sprint. And then you can see everyone all around the world. So here are a few of our featured projects. So we talked about a few of these already, like the badges, STEM role models, content mine, we mentioned, World Brain.
OpenSMP.
OpenSMP, yeah. There's lots of projects. Oh, and here, phage parser.
We should change the name.
Yeah,
I'm going to be at the Toronto site for the global sprint. So
yeah, she'll be here. So if you're in Toronto, you can come here, and we'll sprint and things for 2 days. Both of us will be here. Cool. I noticed both. Oh, Kenny left, but Adam, you're on the call. You didn't give us an update. Anything to say?
So yeah, we're making a fair bit of progress lately. We've got a new developer, EBI, that is helping out quite a bit. So we've been getting him up to speed.
What's your project again, Adam?
Wormbase.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, we are very close to having part of the website in production running off of Datomic. So the transition's going quite well. And yeah, we're getting quite organized with it. So once we do transition over to Datomic fully, I guess it would take the summer, then yeah, we would be more able to have others contribute to the website and different things. But yeah.
Cool, thanks for the update, Adam.
Thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, this has been really interesting, really great. Good to hear from all the projects, and from Yuri, thank you again for your insightful words.
Yes, thank you. That was very helpful, Yuri. Yuri.
Yuri.
I'm sorry. It's so good.
We made it worse.
Okay. But our next call is May 25th, same time, and hope to see you guys there. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Oh, yeah, stop talking.